Well, everyone, it is time for us to go and take a look at the beautiful, wonderful iPhone 14 Pro Max and see how this particular iPhone holds up in 2025. Now, I already have a smile on my face because this is one of my favorite iPhones, that I feel like I'm going to talk about throughout this whole entire year. And when I take a look at the iPhone 14 Pro Max, right, this is one of those devices that I think is going to stand the test of time throughout the remainder of this year so well. It's going to hit 3 years old this year, and looking forward, I think this is going to be one of the best years for this particular device. iOS 18 wasn't the best for all iPhones, but I think iOS 19 hopefully is going to fix a lot of things, and now that we're getting into the more stable versions of iOS 18, I think this might be one of the best years going on for this particular device. So we'll take a look at that throughout this whole entire video. But if you want to go and pick up this phone or some other phones that I would recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description below. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of the iPhone 14 Pro Max, this particular iPhone on the front side is giving you a beautiful display. So this thing on the front is giving you a 6.7-inch Super LTPO Super Retina XDR OLED display. So once again, this in and of itself is another really humongous asset for this type of device. And the reason for that is because this is a very big size panel. It's basically in line with almost like an iPhone 16 Pro Max, not quite. It's a little bit smaller. And it does have a little bit more bezel than you probably think. And it's not a perfect panel either. But I would still say it's a really good, nice looking panel for the most part. Now, there are some areas where the newer phones are better. We'll get into that in like a minute. But you're still getting that dynamic island on this phone, which looks great. You're getting a lightning port at the bottom, flat sides with reflective sides. And this was actually one of the last iPhones to give you reflective sides. Since this iPhone, the iPhone 15 series didn't have it and the 16s don't have it either. This was the last one there, which was kind of crazy. This is also one of the last iPhones to bring a ringer switch on the side. Of course, the 15s had it too, but now Apple's removed it completely. You're also getting a frosted glass back on the back side of this particular iPhone, which looks amazing. So once again, if you're going to go through and if you're going to pick up an iPhone, it is a really nice thing to be able to go through and pick up an iPhone like this that's going to be giving you this type of feeling. Triple camera setup on the back side, a LiDAR sensor as well, MagSafe capability, and a lot of good, nice capability when it comes down to this particular device. So again, it's not perfect. There are some other areas of this phone that maybe don't hold up super well. Number one, it does have a little tiny bit more bezel when compared to some of the competition. So that right there can be a little bit of a downside. Like if you're comparing this against the 16 Pro Max, this thing has a slightly smaller display with a little bit more bezel, but again, not that big of a deal. You are missing out on Apple Intelligence, you're missing out on Action button, and you're missing out on the camera button. But the biggest thing is USB-C. You are lacking USB-C here. This was the last iPhone to have Lightning. The successors of this phone did end up basically giving you USB-C. So that right there is a little bit of a downside. I don't know if it would be the reason why I would go and upgrade, but that is just one other thing to kind of keep in mind within this particular device. But otherwise, it looks very good. Price tag wise, this phone does cost about $580, $570 on Amazon right now. It does go up to over 600 in some models, but if you're buying the base model, expect it to cost around $550 for the most part. So that right there is kind of a really big thing to keep in mind, because if you're able to buy this phone for that price, I mean, that's like half the cost, like less than half the cost of an iPhone 16 Pro Max, and this phone is like just 2 generations old, which is a pretty crazy thing to think about. When it comes down to the cameras, I think this is still a pretty decent highlight for this type of device. So number one, it's still giving you that 48 megapixel wide angle camera on the back. It's also giving you 12 megapixel telephoto lens, and then a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera as well. So the thing to kind of think about with this type of camera is that at the end of the day, it's still a functional camera and it still looks good, right? So if you're going to go through and if you're going to pick up a phone, this camera is still very good. 4K at 60 on the front and the back. And I'm going to be honest, even when compared to the iPhone 16 Pro Max, I'm going to be honest, of course the newer phones are way better, but this thing is still very good. Cinematic mode, still getting very high resolutions you can film in. And I'm pretty sure the resolutions you can film in on this phone are very comparable to what you can get on the 15 Pro Max. And even going up to something like the iPhone 16 Pro, like those ones can film higher resolutions, 4K at 120 frames per second. But like I said, I don't think it's like the biggest deal in the world either there. So I would probably tell you from that side, I think it's a very important thing to keep in mind. Like, of course, you can upgrade, this phone and get a better one with more capability. But I think this thing still looks very, very good for the most part too. And I genuinely don't have like that many complaints when it comes down to it. So from that side as well, that kind of covers it up there too. Now, on top of that, when it comes down to software longevity, this is another very big asset for this type of device as well. So number one, you're still going to be getting software support, right? It's not going anywhere anytime soon. This type of device is still going to be giving you that type of software longevity, which again is a very nice thing to have. Is it going to last forever? Probably not, but it's still going to be here for quite a bit of time. And I do like buying these types of devices because they are going to be lasting for, many, many years to come. So when it comes down to the software longevity side, this device is still there. It is missing out on, it's missing out on Apple Intelligence. So this is in and of itself a really, really sad thing to kind of think about, because that is in and of itself kind of a sad thing, right? I think Apple Intelligence could have easily been supported on this device. I have no idea why it wasn't, but that was kind of an annoying thing. But regardless of that, you're still here, you're still good to go. I will say also from the battery life side, this phone is going to be giving you a really decent battery size inside of this phone, a 4,323 mAh battery size, which again is very, very good. That's a very decent, comparable type of situation going on here. And I do think if you are going to go through and if you're going to pick up a device, it is really, really nice to be able to go through and get, this type of experience. So I think from a battery life standpoint, again, I think this kind of gets a thumbs up there too. Finally, when it comes down to the performance, this phone was giving you that Apple A16 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM. So once again, when it comes down to the performance level of this type of device, you are going to be getting a very good performing device. This thing still feels very fast. It still feels like it can be a very, very fast phone for the most part. And you're really not going to be feeling like you're missing out on too much when it comes down to the battery life standpoint. Like, this device in and of itself is still a very, very nice thing going on with it. So I would probably tell you from that side too, I love being able to go through and buy these types of devices because they're very good, right? For basic games you're going to be playing, it's going to be very, very good. For, more intensive games and more intensive applications, you're going to be pretty solid. So from that side too, you're really not going to be missing out on too much. And I do feel like if you are going to go through and pick up a device, this is without a doubt a really, really good, solid option. So what I will tell you, and to kind of sum up this whole entire video, if you're going to go through and if you're going to pick up a device, I genuinely do think that this type of phone, it's a very, very good phone to go and pick up. It's a very solid phone. I love this phone a lot. And genuinely, at the end of the day, if you are going to go through and pick up a device, you cannot go wrong with a phone like this, right? Apple did a really good job with it. The only phones that are better than this thing are the iPhone 15 Pro Max and the iPhone 16 Pro Max. You can also go for the standard Pro, too. But this is a very good phone. I'm obsessed with this phone. I love it a lot. And this is without a doubt a really good option in 2025. So from that side in and of itself, that kind of covers it up there for the most part. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.